Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about the new Priests album, The Seduction of Kansas. Priests are a Washington, D.C. post-punk and punk rock band that a few years ago blew up very quickly, and I was really excited to get into them at the time. Their debut album, Nothing Feels Natural, really got a lot of praise from critics and fans alike, but I always found myself very casually into it. Some of the wordier, more intense tracks here I absolutely vibed with, but that's because I'm really into that style of post-punk most of the time. But some of the more straightforward tracks here were, honestly, just that, a little too straightforward for my liking. Like, I felt like Priests had a great bass sound, but just needed to expand on it a little bit. But from the sound of these opening singles, that's exactly what Priests have been doing, and as well as really focusing on their songwriting, which is big as well. Let's chat about this new album. This album starts off with Jesus' Son. It's a very upbeat, grimy punk tune with just tons of punch to it. And honestly, it is a little less wordy than what I'm used to hearing from Priests. But it's so much more tuneful, the songwriting is really on point, and honestly, it's even a little fun. All around, too, I just really love the instrumentals here. The bass is punchy, the drums are great, I don't have any complaints. Not to mention, as a front woman, Katie Alice Greer just sounds absolutely dangerous as hell. As a matter of fact, there are quite a few more upbeat and a little more accessible tracks here that are just as fun. Take, for example, Goodtime Charlie. This one is a very upbeat and catchy tune that's just very easily accessible. Hearing this track a while back just really made me open my eyes and realize just how far Priests have come in such a short period of time, especially from a songwriting perspective. That's not to say that this track gives up any personality and especially not any attitude, because this one will still kick your ass. Late in the album, following a couple of really slow jams, Carol is like the late album surprise that I needed. It's upbeat and once again really straightforward and easy to digest. I love the jangly guitars and the very streamlined feel to this track. And also, if I may, it's some of these more upbeat tracks that the production really stands out as really great. Carol is easily one of the most easiest to take in tracks here. But most importantly, it doesn't give up any attitude, and that's what a lot of this album is about. Early on in the album, The Seduction of Kansas is such a reach, but one that works out so well for the band, it just excites me so much. This is the kind of track I didn't expect to hear here. This one is practically dance-infused. It's much less grimy, it's very cleanly produced, but let me tell you, this track really pops hard. And to be honest, it's really catchy and sticks with you, and it's really hypnotic at times. To be honest, maybe one of the best rock tunes I've heard all year so far, and the amount of swagger on this track is pretty stunning. And not to mention, it shows off this emotional side to the band that we haven't heard just yet, which is very important. Now, for all my post-punk fans, there are some seriously grimy, slow-burning, tension-building tracks here that will certainly make you happy. First off, we have I'm Clean, which is easily one of the dirtiest tunes here, ironically. It shows Priests taking a step back and doing a major left turn into that post-punk direction that we saw on their debut. And to be honest, I friggin' love how gritty and unforgiving this track is. All the while, it doesn't give up that catchiness factor that we've been seeing on the first couple of tracks here, which is incredibly important. On paper, this track sounds like it really wouldn't work very well, but it does in a big way. And to be honest, it might be my favorite track of the bunch. It's just a really great tune. Ice Cream shows Priests once again going for that old school post-punk vibe. This one's a little more chilly, a little bit more hard to place, but it's just as interesting. It's really freakish and twisted, and it also has the depth of that a band like Savages would pull out of their hat. Not to mention the oddly harmonious vocals that come on to this very dark atmosphere give this one a very twisted feel, and I like that a lot. This one just really gets under your skin. A lot of these tracks do. And not perceived later on in the album is a stretch, but a really good one, the kind of stretch that I like to see. I love the throwback vibes here. I really love the synths as well as the tambourine that they bring in. This is actually one of the best slower tunes here and shows Priests really bringing in a lot of tension. I mean, sure, I might wish that this track had a little bit stronger of a hook, but I really can't complain. This is just the sort of genuinely mysterious track that I really love in post-punk. And when that pulsating beat comes in the back as well as the drums, things get even better. I love this track. However, sadly, this isn't the mind-boggling experiment in post-punk that I wanted to hear Priests go for, and I do still feel like they have room to grow. Early on in the album, I'm really not that into YouTube Sartre. Interestingly enough, this track has a lot of the same elements as the rest of the album, but it's so much more stiff and has like half the personality. And I do like the sort of subtle dreaminess in the background of this one as well. But outside of that, this one isn't nearly as sharply written and just not as fun. Clearly, with a lot of other tracks on here, Priest can definitely pull out a great post-punk tune, but then we get tracks like 68 Screen, and I really wish they wouldn't. This track is sadly stiff as a rock. And yes, I know what you're thinking, post-punk should be a little stiff, and I absolutely agree. But the problem is, most of the time if you're a little stiff in post-punk, you have tons of character, tons of personality, and here I just don't feel that. This one's just not even catchy, and just way too much of a stretch. Control Freak is another sort of unwinding, completely out of control punk jam, and once again, I'm not that crazy about it. Even if it is a little sexy, which is something that I think Priest can pull off. But this one's just so wishy-washy at the end of the day. But I do think that Texas Instruments is a great streamlined finale. This is far from the sound that Priest got big with, and it's even further from the sound that they had on their debut album. If that was your thing, and you really want to hear more than that, you're not going to be enjoying this that much. And yeah, this for punk music is very classy, very pristine as far as production goes. If that's not something you're into, you might want to take a hike as well. But between the zooming guitars and the very crisp bass, I think there's a really solid finale and just a really great reminder of what Priest can do. So overall, I think that this is a much more accessible, sharply written, and genuinely a pretty fun punk album as well. I mean, Priest have come a long way for me, at least as far as my interest in their music goes, but they still have a ton of room to grow. I feel like the post-punk vibe is something they should capitalize on, but there are some tracks in that vein here that end up being completely a waste of my time as well. I do feel like Priest still need to figure out their sound just a little bit more, but still, I think this is a very solid post-punk and punk rock album. I'm feeling a strong 7 on this, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like this video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you guys would like for me to chat about in the future. Until next time, have a great day, guys.